Missouri suffers just a heartbreaking loss at number 10 Vanderbilt, a game where Mizzou was in it all game, even despite the fact that Bo Pribula, their starting quarterback, goes down near the start of the third quarter. Definitely some stuff that Missouri could have done better. But as we were talking about just before we started recording this, Michael, I do think this is arguably Missouri's best showing of the season. Now, it gets a little cloudy because, like, okay, what does this really mean for the future with Bo Pribula out for the rest of the regular season? So we're going to get to that. But Joey Van Summeren, joined by Michael Stamps here in Nashville to recap this performance. Michael, top thoughts from another crazy one?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, another, full of twists and turns, kind of ridiculous. It seems like it has this kind of dark, gloomy cloud because of what happened to Bo Pribula, and I absolutely do think that shifts the outlook for the rest of the season. But they played really, really good on defense outside of the 80-yard run from Kylan Young that happened right over there. Outside of that, I don't think there was really much of any chunk plays. I think one big killer is for both teams was the penalties. I think it was 8 apiece. Around 88 penalty yards for Missouri. I think it was 83 for Vanderbilt. So kills both teams. I think in the end it ends up impacting Missouri more, especially in that last drive. There was 2. I think one of them was a tripping penalty, which is kind of a new one for me, and then a holding as well that really set Missouri back. But you throw a backup freshman quarterback into the fire, not much time to acclimate, and Matt Zollers made some really good throws. I feel like, in all honesty, he did all you could really ask of him. He threw a couple good passes, had a touchdown, a couple third down conversions, a couple fourth down conversions. Obviously, the one to Kevin Coleman, there was the one to Josh Manning on one of his first drives. I mean, I don't really know what more you can ask of him. The offensive line definitely had its best game of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, off the top of my head, don't know if any of the quarterbacks got sacked once, so that is something worthy of note. Ahmad Hardy had space to run. Obviously, they went away from him in the second half or end of the third, fourth quarter just because they were trying to move the ball down the field, which is interesting. I think that says a lot about the trust of Matt Zollers. He looked really comfortable. I mean, there's also some truth to the fact that Missouri was able to move the ball down the field with Matt Zollers at the quarterback position, so that's interesting. I mean, for the most part, the secondary was fine. A penalty here and there, and there weren't really many big plays, so it's odd. Feels like all the things we've griped about looked solid. It just wasn't enough big plays, and then obviously not having Bo Pribula, it seems like it probably makes a difference there. So just a few big plays short maybe, but again, it's kind of a weird feeling because they played well, but there is this kind of dark cloud. Obviously, you walk away with a loss, and that's disappointing, but having a guy like Bo Pribula go down for the rest of the regular season hurts really bad.
Right, I am so incredibly interested. Well, one, to take a look back at this game and see how Matt Zollers really did, but then also to what you said, like, undeniably, I thought a few drives that Matt Zollers was in near the end was some of the best rhythm Missouri has had all season. Now, obviously, there's going to be a little bit more of a hurried pace that you have to have, but I thought there was a really solid mix at points, especially in that 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive that Matt Zollers had to tie the game at 10 points. I thought there was some really good stuff as far as a few quick runs to Ahmad Hardy. Also, focusing on the quick passing game. Like, obviously, we've talked all season about Missouri can't pass the ball deep. They haven't been able to. And obviously, that's still something that you kind of need to have in order to have a full, well-rounded offense. And I think that would free up a lot for Ahmad Hardy. But also just the fact that it feels like when I was watching Diego Pavia throw the ball and the Vanderbilt offense operate, especially early in the game, it's like, man, like, with Diego, the ball is out so quick.
Yeah.
And I do think part of that, just from what we've heard from the coaches and also just watching it myself, I do think part of that is Bo reading the defense, but then also just the fact that play design, the play calling. And then with Matt Zollers, obviously, you're going to, simplify the playbook. At least you have to a little bit. And so all that to say, interested to see how the approach might change on offense, because again, Matt Zollers gave this team a chance. Obviously, as far as what you said and kind of the reflection for the team, the lights really weren't all that bright for him. I do think on that last drive we saw one. I mean, it's hard to say without the play calls, but a few too many times where he was looking to hit that home run or score all 30 points in one 3-point shot, basically, and that will have to be corrected. But again, you got to understand the situation. But not reacting to pressure, great on that drive as well. I thought, on his touchdown to Jude, his fourth and 4 pass to Joshua Manning that he converts for 14 yards. On both of those, he kind of stands in the pocket, but he's not aloof to the pressure.
No.
He makes the right steps, and compared to Bo, Bo has had issues all season overreacting to pressure. And so Matt was doing that on the final drive. But again, really, really interested to take another closer look at Matt Zoller's performance, and then see in 2 weeks against Texas A&M. I mean, man, it's a good time for a bye week in Missouri, as Eli Drinkwood said, but that's going to be really tough to come off the bye week and have to face that. But as far as the outlook of the team, because let's address this right away, because it is an interesting question of like, okay, how much does the rest of this game really matter? Is my main thing. How much can it really be encouraging? What does Missouri have to look forward to after this? What elements can they be encouraged by? And I at this point, when you have 2 losses, I don't know if it's worth debating the semantics of like, oh, if this and this happens, they could make the playoff. Like it's going to be a tough road. And I mean, hey, when Missouri lost to Alabama last year, I was thinking that their season was over when they suffered that second loss. And then they still had somewhat of a chance, but they probably still don't make it if they win over South Carolina. But the hopes were back for that game. I just think it's going to be really tough for Missouri. Obviously, you have to win out. You have to get wins over Texas A&M. You have to get wins over Oklahoma. Eli Drinkwood still said, and of course, he's going to say this. Said he still thinks they have a chance for the playoff. They have to win out. Of course, he acknowledged that. But again, I think it's just to me, it's pointless to debate the semantics of that. We'll see what happens the rest of the season, but at the very least, I have a lot of interest in seeing how Matt Zoller performs, and I think you have to consider this for the future, and I'm interested to hear what Eli Drinkwitz has to say about this down the line. The fact that, look, a few months ago at the start of September, Eli Drinkwitz said, make no mistake about it, Matt Zoller is still the future of the quarterback position. I mean, stating the obvious, we've all known that since Matt Zoller's committed, all that time ago, but to be able to get reps like this for him is incredibly valuable. Obviously, it's one thing to do it against non-conference, and he really didn't get that much opportunities to do so. Like against Louisiana, only got a few pass attempts, only got a few pass attempts against Central Arkansas. So you really can't replicate this. There's no other situation like this where you can have a quarterback in the SEC playing a game like this where going into it, playoff stakes, there's going to be they're going to care. Their last few games are going to matter. There's going to be pressure. Again, there's not much more you can ask for as far as getting your quarterback reps. What next season looks like, again, just something I don't think is worth, debating or pointing out about, what happens with Bopila or Sam Horn after this season. So all that to say, no matter what, though, if Matt Zoller's, granted, he has to stick around for it to matter, but I think this is great experience for him to get. Any thoughts on that and just the outlook for Missouri for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think, like you said, a lot goes into what Matt Zoller did today. I also think a lot goes into the rest of Missouri's season. I mean, just for starters off the top of my head, I believe Texas or Mississippi State pushed Texas to the brink, and Arkansas almost beat Auburn. So 2 things to watch there. Texas A&M and LSU is going on as we speak, and Oklahoma did lose, but everyone remaining on Missouri's schedule, Bo Pabula or Matt Zollers, regardless of who's at the quarterback spot, it's going to be a tough game regardless, and teams like Mississippi State, Arkansas proved that today. So, I mean, winning out, I'm not going to say yes or no, but the optics are there. It's certainly going to be a challenge. With Matt, I think it's interesting because he was kind of in this hurry-up offense. It's going to be interesting to see when he's in more of that tempo stuff against Texas A&M, how comfortable he looks. One thing that really, really stood out to me, and I mentioned it earlier, he had so much time to throw the ball, and it's going to be interesting to go back and watch Matt and see some of these throws he made, but also interesting to see how much pressure they were setting at him. I don't really remember off the top of my head. Going to have to go double check on that, because part of that could have just been they were going to force him to throw the ball and make him make mistakes, or maybe the offensive line was just that good. But regardless, he had a lot of time to throw the ball, so that obviously helps young freshman inexperienced quarterback, so that makes a difference. But I mean, again, you can't really complain. I think it's kind of crazy to use the word clutch for a first-time quarterback playing in the biggest moment of his career so far, but even though they didn't win, I feel like you could still use that term because he converts with that rush on third down. The throw to Josh Manning, the throw to Kevin Coleman. I mean, that 36-yarder to Kevin Coleman right after was an equally great throw, and obviously it gets bumped back eventually due to penalties, but you're in scoring territory, you're in the red zone because of that throw and catch. So again, he made a lot of impressive plays. I think part of it, and I don't know if it's the same for you, it was kind of just dumbfounded that he was even in the game in the first place. It was just kind of a crazy series of events, but he handled himself very well. He looked very composed. You mentioned the shots at the sideline on those last couple plays. I think he was trying to take the home run shot. The intentional grounding was, an experienced quarterback would get that ball out.
Right.
Obviously, that's not the case. Whether it's a penalty or not, you either take the sack or get it out earlier or throw it away better. But again, he's just not there. And then at the same time, he threw a pretty solid Hail Mary ball.
Yeah.
And literally had Kevin Coleman inches away from the end zone. Interesting to think about what happens after that if that is a touchdown. So again, I don't know what more you can ask from him. Dialed up a lot of good throws. He was quote unquote clutch, if we want to say that, even though they didn't win. Did it on his legs a little bit as well. So impressive stuff. I feel like for the sake of my head not wanting to explode, I don't want to think about what the next few weeks look like for Matt Zollers and Missouri, but absolutely it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, right. And with Zollers, as far as what you were talking about there, I just think it's going to be interesting, the fact that he is a very good fit for this offense. And we'll have to take a look back at his high school tape again, and just to take a look back at this game, how he performed, and what this offense will look like going forward. A few other bullet points on the offense here. A lot of what I had wrote down was a lot of what you mentioned at the start there. Penalties stalled Missouri's drive, penalties stalled Vanderbilt's drive. It is crazy to think about. I'm remembering now the main point I wanted to make when I said I would be interesting. I would be interesting, like you said, what happened if this game went to overtime. Yeah. And just the fact, I know a really common sentiment for Missouri fandom right now is just, when is this team going to be more than close? When are they going to get over the hump? I don't think this game was as much of a getting over the hump game as that game against Alabama was, just because of the statement it would send. No need to be shy about it, just because Alabama's logo and all of that. That's just kind of how college football works, to be honest. But still, same thing as far as they still have to go play overtime, and if they get literally 1 yard away, but still, crazy to think about what would happen, and just again how interesting this team would be. One of the best storylines in college football, in my opinion, if Missouri is going into a bye week and then Texas A&M the next week with a backup quarterback who played a really good game and 7-1 on the season. But again, I get the sentiment from Missouri fans. It's like, man, when will this team be more than close? But this is another one of those games where it's like, man, only 2 or 3 plays more. Yeah. Again, I think there is definitely things to point to, and they could have done this better. They missed that field goal early in the game. Obviously, they lose by more than 3 points, but would have changed some things. Certain things on defense, a few big plays like that. If they score, even on the play that Pabula gets injured. Yeah. One, if Pabula doesn't get injured, but also if he scores 7 points there on that 4th and 2. And obviously, I hate looking back in hindsight of they should have not went for a 4th down conversion, because you can only know what you know at that time. Yeah. But if they go for a field goal there, then Robert Meyer makes a kick, then all they need to hear on that last drive is a field goal. But again, that's neither here nor there. Not much you can criticize there. Penalties saw both teams' drives. Run blocking, like you said, a lot better. I thought Ahmad Hardy a lot more space to run. Pass protection, still some issues for Bo. I thought Bo played a solid game overall. Yeah. I guess, what's the point of that? Yeah. By the way, if you missed it from Matt Zennis, we should have mentioned this at the top. Matt Zennis from CBS Sports reporting that Bo is going to miss at least the rest of the regular season. Brinkley said it's a ankle dislocation, said it could be a while. He's going to undergo an MRI Sunday. On the defense for me, just thought the pressure was good. Thought they forced Diego Pavia into some unfavorable situations. I think we got to give a shout out. The secondary allowed some explosive plays still, but I think if we're going to criticize Toriano Pride and the rest of them, got to give credit where it's due for some good plays this early on in this game, especially. And then defense, kind of just the same thing as against Auburn. Eventually, that dam broke loose. Part of it because of what the offense wasn't able to do, some shorter drives offensively, but then also just with the defense, like eventually it's going to crack. Saw that with the MK Young 80-yard touchdown. So that's all I got. Anything else from you, Michael, before we leave Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, you can't help but wonder if that 80-yard MK Young touchdown, it was right after Bo got hurt.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses or anything, but you can't help but wonder if there was just a sense of shock. I mean, there's optics to your starting quarterback who is viewed as the leader of a football team getting hurt. I can't imagine this type of impact. Obviously, you want to rally around that. It seems like that was kind of the energy and the intention, and maybe that happened eventually, but that fresh, I'm sure there's a sense of shock. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but I feel like that needs to be accounted for. But again, it's just weird to be here and we're not saying all these things that went really wrong, because in the end, nothing went dramatically wrong. Toriano Pride was good today. Multiple good coverage reps. Wasn't super handsy like he normally is, and never really got burnt. The only one that really stands out to me is the Stephen Hall pass interference. So outside of that group was good. Maybe not the statistical impact from the pass rush that we're used to seeing, but they still pressured Diego Pavia. I don't know his rushing numbers off the top of my head, but it wasn't what it normally is. So that was impressive in itself. I think third down defense was good on both teams. I also think there was an ability to convert from both teams. So again, that makes a difference. But again, it's just kind of odd that we're here saying that all of these things that have been bad, objectively bad over the last few weeks were good, and they still lost. Maybe it says a lot about Vanderbilt circumstantially, and again, everything was just kind of crazy and kind of a blur. But just circumstances in this one are a little bit weird. I think there is plenty of reason for this Missouri team to hold its head high. I don't know if that's the case, if we're being honest, just because, again, of the circumstances with Bo going down. We didn't mention it, but Brett Norfleet didn't come back into the game, I believe. Jude James is in his place. Obviously, he scores a touchdown. Not something I think we thought we would be saying, but Brett Norfleet also gets hurt. We don't really know the extent of that injury either. Just a little bit of lack of clarity there, but that's another important player that goes down. So again, just circumstances. It just seems weird that we're here saying they lost, but a lot of things went well. So I think this is a really good building block. I think maybe the first time we've said that all season, where it's like there is a lot of positives to build on this, but that look on the season looks odd, to say the least.
Right, absolutely. Well, we got to get back to Columbia and then watch some Matt Zoller's tape. So appreciate y'all tuning in to this. Hope you do the same for us, our coverage.